Greetings and welcome back to IDP Bets. How's everybody doing? My name is Johny the Greek. This is IDP Bets. It is week 12. I am joined by a very special guest. You guys saw him earlier this season. He's one of our favorites. It is at Jeff Pomazal, all one word, on Twitter. He is the host of the IDP After Show and did the IDP Minute for the entire offseason, which was awesome. He is a contributor for the IDPshow.com, a known degenerate and a Badgers fan. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Fantastic. Ready to get this pre-Thanksgiving weekend started. What better way than cooking up some football bets?
That's it. Yeah. And I love next week, too. I don't know how you feel about Thanksgiving week, but they always do great promos for the Thanksgiving Day games and like lots of no sweats and stuff. So that's always awesome.
And it's always fun to have the games kind of stretched out. I know it makes for a long week, especially if you're like losing on Thursday and you have no chance to win. It makes that weekend long. But then what better way to soothe your sorrows by throwing some money down on Black Friday game, and then so it's just a great week of football.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Before we get to that, though, we have to get through week 12. So we got some good options for you this week. Just a reminder, though, these are not even suggestions. We're just discussing the bets that we'll be making personally. Set a limit and stick to it. For help with problem gambling, please call 1-800-GAMBLER, and this is an entertainment show. Alrighty, transparency. After a little bit of a win streak, we came back to earth last week with a 3-5 week. That is all my fault, though. Patrick was 3-1 and remains excellent, as is tradition. Me, not so much, but that's all right. We'll see if we can do better this week. And just another quick note. So these lines today are pulled from Underdog and Bet365. Those guys have typically been putting out the IDP props first each week, with DraftKings and FanDuel to follow, usually the morning of each game, with the lines and prices usually being identical or very close to it. Alrighty, with that being said, let's get started. Mr. Jeff, what's your first favorite IDP bet for this week?
I'm going to fire up a little Marcus Jones under 4.5 tackles for this week. I know that he has a really good matchup with Cincinnati this week, but he's only hit this line one time in the last 5 games. And he's been kind of splitting a lot of time with Christian Gonzalez. And we know that Marcus Jones was like the defensive back one for a couple weeks there to start the season, but that was because Gonzalez was banged up and he was getting a lot of play. And so when we look at what's happened more recently, we see that Christian Gonzalez has come back and we've seen him play 100% of snaps. And as a result, Marcus Jones has kind of been slipping. Marcus Jones played 89% in week 9. He played 81% in week 10, and he played just 67% of snaps last week in 11. And so we know that if we're not getting on the field, we can't make plays. And Marcus Jones is really having kind of a regression here to his normal season right now. He does get a really good pass offense with Cincinnati, but we're not quite sure what we're going to get with Cincinnati this week. We don't know if Burrow is going to play. We don't know if Flacco is going to play. I know that Flacco was kind of limited, and he was full health and full participant today in practice, and he's cleared to play on Sunday. But in a crazy world, is it out of the realm to think of a Jake Browning game this week? If Burrow's not good to go and Flacco's not there. Also, Cincinnati's offense does not have Jamar Chase this week after Spitgate. And so we're going to have a T. Higgins as the number 1 wideout. And then Josevich is going to be the wide receiver too. So that could really kind of limit what Cincinnati's offense looks like. So limited snaps for Marcus Jones, playing a question mark on the offensive side of the ball. We're not sure what we're going to get there. So I'm going to take the under on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I had to demote everyone a little bit. The Patriots corners against Cincy in my article this week because of Spitgate, right? We're losing 10 to 15 wide receiver targets right there with Jamar Chase not playing this week. As insane as that sounds, it's true. Like, you can pencil him in for 10 to 15 that are just gone because of that. And then, the QB situation's all over the place. And Marcus Jones has been fantastic this year, but he's also getting that done with pass defense, interceptions, splash plays. He returns punts occasionally. He had that huge game where he had like 100+ return yards and a return touchdown a few weeks back. So, he's getting it done all different ways, not just with the tackles. So, yeah, I can absolutely see this. And Yeah, I don't really know what to think about Cincy this week. It's going to be weird.
Yeah, and you got to think, if Christian Gonzalez is covering their number one, that's going to be T. Higgins, and then so like is Josevash going to be that T. Higgins type player where he's going to draw the attention and draw the snaps, where Jones is going to get a couple plays there, and Jones has kind of been playing in that slot spot anyway, so it's not like he's going to command a ton of attention in that defense this week. So.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. And that Cincy defense is terrible. New England could easily dominate time of possession and just keep them all on the bench. So that's a possibility as well. Alrighty, good stuff to kick us off there. I'm also going to go shocking, I know, a corner for my first one. I think this is pretty much as big a slam dunk as humanly possible. I see Jeff nodding here. So I'm going to take Mr. Cooper DeJean over 4.5 combined at -155 on bet 365. He's been over that line in 8 of 10 games so far this season. That's 80% of the time to begin with. He's going across this line. And this week, he's getting essentially a perfect setup for this. He's getting the Cowboys, who allow the most cornerback tackles each week with 15.5 allowed per game. Dallas is also the 5th overall team in the league for wide receiver targets. And anyone that has Pickens or Lamb is well aware of how many wide receiver targets Dallas has each week. Quite a few. Philly is favored by a field goal at home and has won every matchup against Dallas since December of 2023. With this Dallas defense now currently ranked as the second worst overall in points per game allowed, plus the other factors we've discussed, we're likely looking at a negative game script for Dallas, and that only helps this bet. And DeJean, as Dallas will need to pass more than they usually do, which is quite a bit to begin with. This game is indoors at Dallas, so no weather concerns. And yeah, DeJean's been about as solid as humanly possible. So what do you think about this one?
I like this one. And like the games that he hasn't hit it in, it's been like against the Giants. So not a really good pass happy offense. We were, dealing with a lot of stuff with quarterback carousel there. And so, like you said, this is as slam dunky as you can get just because of the pass offense on both sides of the wide receiver room for Dallas. So this is a slam dunk for me too. I like this call a lot.
Yeah, and DeJean's utilization, playing time, role have been perfect. He's been probably the best IDP corner this year. I'd say. Alrighty. We'll give Jeff a second here. It sounds like he's just shutting the door. Alrighty, so that was Mr. DeJean. Okay, we'll go to Jeff's next one here. Who you got for number 2?
I'm going to stick in the cornerback position and CJ Gardner Johnson this week over 2.5 solo tackles. He's hit this in 4 of the last 5 games. He missed last week just by 1 tackle against the Vikings. And if you follow the show and you follow all of the metrics that we kind of throw out there, the Vikings, no one is really getting any tackles against just because that offense is just so putrid lately. He only missed it by 1. So technically, if it's against a high school team and the Minnesota Vikings right now, then he's still got it in my book. The other thing I really like about this one is that every single Bears linebacker is like out this week. TJ Edwards is out. Tremaine Edmonds is out. Noah Sewell is out. They're going to be running like DeMarco Jackson as their starting linebacker. And so the Steelers are giving up 16.2 tackles per game to the linebacker position. They're giving up almost 11 to the safety position. He needs just to get 3 of those 27 tackle opportunities. And I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity there because he's been playing this ideal sweet spot position that we love, especially out of that corner spot. He's played more than 50% of his snaps either in the slot or the box since he's been added to the Bears roster. And with no talent this week at the linebacker position, I can kind of see him kind of playing really, really well for us. And only needing 2.5 solo tackles isn't a ton here. And so if he's hit it in 4 of the last 5, this seems like a slam dunk matchup for me, in my opinion, especially with no linebackers there in Chicago.
Yeah, in the tweet from what was it, the team or Schefter? I saw it earlier this week. Said literally, they don't have any linebackers this week. Expect nickel on every single defensive play. So yeah, I think Chauncey's going to have to be heavily involved this week.
The one thing that gives me pause with this is who knows what the Pittsburgh offense is going to look like. We might not see an Aaron Rodgers this week with the wrist. It's a Mason Rudolph, but even still, I think that they're going to run the ball enough to give this line a lot of credence. So
Yeah, and Chauncey, like you said, has had a lot of slot and box snaps, so he's right there. He is in
Yep.
the vicinity to make those run stopping tackles as well. And Pittsburgh targets a tight end a lot, so it's all in the area.
Yeah, and that's like you added too. Like that's right where he makes his hay. That's where he's lining up more than 50% of the time. He's got a familiarity with that defensive coordinator there. So I mean, it's just like it's a match made in heaven this week.
Yep, I'm with you. Absolutely. Alrighty, good stuff there. Number 2 for me is going to be an under. The guy we don't talk about much, but I think this has got a decent shot because it's happened quite a bit. So I'm going to go Carrington Valentine, cornerback for Green Bay, under 3.5 combined tackles. That's at -120 on Bet 365. So Valentine's been under this line in 8 of 9 games played this season. So every single game except one. And he's seen his playing time fluctuate anywhere from 3% of snaps to 100% of snaps, and has played as little as 74% just a few weeks ago. He'll probably be playing a good amount this week with Nate Hobbs inactive, but the point is, he's not like a locked-in stud starter. This guy has lost and regained his job several times since he's been a Green Bay Packer, so he's not a lock for 100% of snaps by any means. He is not very productive to begin with. And like I just mentioned, has a history of gaining and losing his starting spot as an outside cornerback. And outside cornerback being less productive compared to slot corner already. So that's another positive factor for us. This week he's getting those same Vikings that Jeff was just talking about, who are only allowing 10.6 cornerback tackles per game. That's 26th overall in the league. J.J. McCarthy is only completing 14 passes per game. And of those 14 passes per game, at least 1/3 of them are going to tight ends or running backs out of the backfield. So there is not a lot to eat here for our Green Bay corners to begin with. Minnesota is fine for wide receiver targets each week, but I don't know if anyone saw the meme with the kids on the walking sticks. That kind of hilariously points out that many of McCarthy's throws are like 10 feet over everyone's head. So, they might have a great number of wide receiver targets, but if they're not catchable, that doesn't really matter, right? So when we put all those factors together, plus the difference in time of possession, where Green Bay averages more than 2 more minutes of offensive possession each game, we've got a bunch of different things pointing towards something that's happening 90% of the time already to begin with Carrington Valentine being under 3.5 combined tackles this week. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, and more than likely, Keyshawn Nixon is going to be traveling with Justin Jefferson anyway, so he's going to command most of those offensive targets. And then you're looking at leftovers with Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, and so those guys aren't going to command as many opportunities. And then, like you mentioned, Johnny, like you have what is like 10 or 11 tackles per game to the cornerback position, and for him to hit, he's got to get 50% of those. And that seems like the math ain't mathin' when you kind of look at it that way. If he's got to get more than 50% of the tackle opportunities given to the cornerback position and he's not getting the targets or a reduction in snaps, yeah, that's a great call.
Yeah, and I think Green Bay defensively, that's one of, you're a Packers fan, right? That is a fantastic defense. That those guys are not in for a good time this weekend, the Vikings offense.
But I just hope it leads to some stats, because Minnesota hasn't been very fruitful when it's come to giving up stats, either to the defensive linemen. The linebackers have been suffering, and you just mentioned like the secondary. Ever since McCarthy has kind of taken over this offense, we just don't see opportunity for the defense. It's probably a week to maybe, I talked about it on the preview show this week, fading Rashawn Gary, just because he's probably not going to get a lot of opportunity this week with the Vikings in town. Parsons might be a player to kind of, he's probably still going to be in your lineup, but it's probably tempering expectations for sure. He's not going to, probably have for sure a multi-sack game. Maybe he'll luck it back into one, but that's not the Micah Parsons that we've grown accustomed to seeing.
Right, exactly, and that's such a huge part of this particular bet, but then also IDP in general. Like, what's the offense you're going up against? If they're terrible and they go 3 and out all the time, how are you going to get your tackles? How are you going to get your pass defense? How are you going to get your sacks? Right?
Yep. And this, you nailed it too. When you're who's the offense you're going up against, it kind of leads right into this next prop here with Leonard Williams. I was kind of toying with the idea of which one to take. I think both of them are pretty solid takes, over a half a sack or over the 1.5 solo tackles in this game going up against Tennessee. He's hit the sack prop in 3 of the last 5 games, which is really good when you think about sack numbers. But he's also hit the tackle one in 4 of the last 5 games. Tennessee is just giving up sacks to everybody. And Leonard Williams is lining up this week against Lloyd Cushenberry III, who's given up 19 pressures this season, which 5 of them have led to a sack. So, if he's getting the pressure and he's getting in and on the quarterback, and we know Cam Ward is holding onto the ball, he doesn't have any receiver targets anymore. Calvin Ridley broke his leg last week. He's out. Chimere Dike, I think, is still in concussion protocol. He might not be playing this week. So you're asking Cam Ward to do a lot with very little opportunity there. So he's going to hold on to the ball. We talked about game script a lot, maybe in the last game with Green Bay having time of possession. The game script heavily favors the sack prop to hit here, as Seattle should be leading heavily and early, which is going to make Cam Ward throw the ball. He's probably nervous already. This offensive line has given up 30 sacks, according to PFF, in just 10 games. And so there's a really good chance that Leonard Williams could be in on, one of the 3 or the sacks. If he has 3 sacks in this game, or if Seattle has 3 sacks in this game, which Tennessee has been averaging giving up, all he has to be in is on just be there to get a half of one here. So.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you on this. And I'll tell you how far I'm with you on this and how much I agree on it's going to be a bloodbath. I'm in a super flex league where I might not have had a second quarterback this week, and I prioritized the Seattle defense over a second quarterback because they're going to score more points than whatever quarterback I get off waivers. I'm pretty sure.
And it's a very unique take too, Johnny, because so often in those super flex leagues, the managers are just so like, I got to have a quarterback in that spot. I got to have a quarterback in that spot. And sometimes you're better off not, because if they're only going to get you, single digit points, you're better off flexing like a wide receiver or a running back, or like in this case, you're prioritizing the defense that's probably going to score, depending on scoring, just as much, if not in a high end wide receiver or running back this week. So.
Oh yeah. Gonna be a bloodbath, and yeah, Williams has been fantastic. So I'm with you on this. I think that's got a good shot right there.
If you had to take one of these two, Johnny, which would you rather put it down on, the sack or the tackle?
Probably the sack, to be honest with you. Just because the payout will be better. I think it's just as likely to happen, and Tennessee creating enough offense for tackles, just like Minnesota we were talking about, is a little bit of a concern. But yeah, that sack feels pretty likely. Nice. All righty. Number 3 for me, going to head over to the Giants game here. Going to take Mr. Bobby Okereke, however you want to say it, over 7.5 combined tackles. This one is off Underdog. So he's been over that line in 6 of 11 games this season, and this week he's getting the Detroit Lions, who allow the 4th most linebacker tackles each week, 18.1 given up per game. That's quite a few. The Lions are also the 7th best rushing attack in the league. They average more than 28 carries per game. Between the plentiful amount of rushing attempts and throws to Gibbs out of the backfield, plus the new wrinkle they've put in, which is the shallow crossers to JMO, there's going to be a ton of action in Okereke's area all game long. The Giants are also starting Jameis Winston this week, who I love personally, but it's probably not going to go well for him. So the odds are good that Detroit wins the turnover battle pretty handily here, gets up big at some point, and then salts the clock away late with a bunch of carries that would also help Okereke clear this line. And finally, the Detroit coaching staff is also mentioned that they want to get David Montgomery more involved this week. So that means instead of, those Gibbs outside runs, more bruising runs up the middle right into Okereke's area. So I think we got a few different things that point towards a busy day for Mr. Bobby Okereke here. What do you think about that one?
I like this call, and this was one I was like kind of toying with as one of mine to suggest this week too. Is like he gets a great matchup. Dan Campbell's been calling the offensive plays the last 3 weeks, and we see he wants to kind of establish them as that smash mouth, bite your ankle kind of offenses and stuff like that. And they kind of let one slip away last week. They didn't look really solid last week. So I think this is that week where we're gonna reassert our dominance. David Montgomery is going to definitely be involved in this game this week. So I think this is almost a smash, easy call here too. And I love this call.
Nice. Yep. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it definitely stuck out out of what we had available. That's for sure.
When I was looking at prepping for the show right away, I looked at who the Detroit Lions had, because they're the best linebacker for opposing teams. So, and then who you want? The one guy that's going to be healthy and out there. So, and I didn't see any lines for Dane Belton yet, so I was kind of waiting to see. So,
yeah, they'll pop out. They'll pop. But that's a good point, though. That's how our thought process goes for all these, right? Like those Macri charts come out, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yep.
That's a great way to see who's given up how many tackles to what position. You target who's available for those, and then look at other factors that are going to help, right? And as Justin Barnes would say, the more of those factors we have pointing towards something, the more likely it is to happen. And, you just hope you get lucky if you got enough of them.
Yeah, at some point, if you use your head a little more often than your heart, you'll be right. So,
yes, sir. Alrighty, that'll take us to the bonus bets. What do you got for a bonus bet this week?
For bonus bets, I've got going out to Vegas here. We're going to do a little Jeremy Chinn over 2.5 assisted tackles in this one. He has hit this in 3 straight games. The Browns are a top 7 matchup for linebackers with 17.5 tackles per game, but they're also a top 5 matchup for opposing safeties with 15.2 tackles per game. He just needs to be around the pile on 3 of the combined 33 tackle attempts in this game for either position. And I don't know if he really has a role, like a defined role. He's kind of a hybrid safety linebacker. He's playing in those ideal sweet spots for us. He's played 671 snaps this season. 74% of those have come in that sweet spot, either at the defensive line, either at the slot corner position, or in the box. So just like CJ Gardner Johnson, he's lining up right where we want him to be. And to get 2.5 assisted tackles, you just got to be in the area and just put a hand on a player with someone else there. So assisted tackles are kind of a little more fruitful when it comes to IDP scoring. Like I said, he's hit this in 3 straight games, 5 of the last 6. So really good opportunity here for him. The game has only a 36-point over-under, which tells me that there's going to be not a lot of scoring, probably a lot of running in this game, especially by the Browns. We've got Shadur Sanders making his first start, and we saw what he did last week when he was kind of just thrown to the wolves with not a lot of practice. He was only like 4 for 16 passing. And so knowing that going into this game, I think they're going to try to help him be as successful as possible. So there's probably going to be a lot of running in this game. Whatever the Quinshon Judkins rushing attempt over prop is going to be, probably a good one to hit this week, just because he's probably going to be heavily involved in this game. Max Crosby kind of popped up on the injury report too today. So if he's out or limited, that could keep that offense going just a little more. If we could see like 5 or 6 extra plays, maybe Jeremy Chinn gets in on 1 or 2 more of those. And, this could be a cash at halftime.
Yep. I'm with you on this. And this Cleveland team targets their tight ends a ton also beyond that. So, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in Chinn's area. I love those box snaps. Judkins should have 1 million carries this week. So I think there's a good chance. And it's not like this Vegas team is all that much better, right? Like this is going to be a legit back and forth game. I don't see any blowout rest or anything for Jeremy Chinn coming.
No,
they're not that good. So this has got a good shot, I think.
Well, especially with that over under only at 36, they're not expecting a lot. That's only 18 points per team. That's a touchdown or 2 touchdowns and a field goal, or however you want to slice it. That's a 1 possession game at any time in the entire game. So,
yep, yeah, definitely, yep. Alrighty, I like that better than mine. Alrighty, so my bonus is absolutely dangerous. It is. I mean, it shouldn't be, right? Because Jack Campbell's been awesome all year, and I'll get into the weeds on this here, but the matchup is less than ideal. So okay, bonus. We saved the iffy stuff for the bonuses. This is iffy. So Jack Campbell over 8.5 combined tackles. This was off Underdog. He's been over that line in 6 of 10 games so far this season, so that's pretty good. He's getting a Giants team that allows the third most linebacker tackles each week with 18.3 given up per game. That kind of surprised me a little bit. Did not expect them to see them way up at the top of that list, but it's true. The Giants may get behind quickly, and that could screw all this up. But they've got Jameis Winston under center, and I believe in him enough to hang with Detroit long enough for this to happen, right? Campbell is also having a career year and has been a tackle away from this line and another 4 games beyond the 6 where he cleared this line. So in 10 games this year, he's either gone over this line or been a half tackle away from it. So he's right there every single week, basically. And I'm just betting that crazy Jameis Winston will keep it close enough for long enough for this to happen. But yeah, there is a legit possibility that the Giants don't create enough offense for this to happen as well. Hence why it's a bonus bet. Thoughts on this one?
And Jack Campbell was a player that I had as a player to fade last week on the preview show because he was going up against the Vikings, and he proved me wrong. He was like, I don't want to say that he was matchup proof, but all season we were going against the Vikings opposing linebackers, and Jack Campbell I had on there as the player to fade, and he showed out. The Giants last week had 35 rushing attempts, and so that's a really solid number between Tracy and Singleton. So, if you're thinking like, okay, 35 rushing attempts, if I can get 20% of those, that's going to be 4 or 5 tackles already. They use their tight ends a lot, so it's very conceivable that Campbell could easily hit this number at 9 tackles for the game, and no one would bat an eye.
Hey, right. And that was another thing that I'm glad you mentioned. Excuse me. Yeah, Theo Johnson and the tight ends on the Giants.
And Daniel Beglinger
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, no, good numbers.
Yeah.
I just haven't been paying attention to them, I guess. But yeah, they've been having fine seasons. So
as a Dallas fan, why would you?
Right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm too busy being worried about both our receivers throwing up at Las Vegas casinos.
Hey, if they can sit out one series and have the games that they did, well, I'll give them every week off.
That's right. Yeah, let's get them loaded before every game.
Don't worry about their alcohol tolerance at all, right?
Oh yeah, what a wacky season for the Cowboys. But yeah, so that's what we got. Alrighty, well, good stuff. We got some good options out there for this week. Mr. Pomazal, where can the people find you? What are you working on this season? Any announcements for the crowd?
Yeah, you can find me over on the X or Twitter or whatever it's still called these days at Jeff Pomazal. Dropping on Wednesday evenings. We're doing our weekly preview episode. We've got it's crazy that we're already, to the 2/3 quarter post of the season here. We got just 6 weeks left of our season. We got 3 weeks left of the regular season before the playoffs start. Hopefully for all of our listeners are in the playoffs for their fantasy teams. But during the off season, we're going to continue looking at leading up to the draft, looking at players to kind of like try to roster as players with upside for the season, players to move off of, and draft season hits and it's right back into the grind. So
yep, yeah, absolutely. And I've loved the after show / preview show you've been doing. That's really good stuff. And I like how you guys kind of deep dive and really go into some of the trends we see and why we're seeing them, and that's always important, right? The why is important.
Yeah. And with that too, Johnny, we were trying to do something a little different. Instead of previewing every single game and just making it like a marathon, just trying to look at some of the shallow league options, some of the deeper league options, and looking at each position and be like, this is a player you probably want to try to get in your lineup over, some of the higher ranked players or some of the lower ranked players, and just kind of do something a little different this season.
Nice. Yep. Good stuff. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it as always. Always a pleasure having you on.
I appreciate the opportunity once again. Couldn't have done too bad last time if you had me back for another week. So,
oh no, not at all. You won those British boys quite a bit of cash, so that was pretty.
Yeah, that's right. That's
the Rams. Pretty cool.
Yep.
That Rams game. Yep. Alrighty, before we get out of here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for our other shows, the flagship IDP Show podcast, the IDP After Show, the IDP Trade Show, and IDP Drafts. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so for just $5 a month over at theidpshow.com. We've got premium features for paid supporters that we know you'll enjoy. Follow us on Twitter at the IDP Show, all one word. Thank you guys for listening. Good luck this week. Everyone, go win some money, go win your matchups, and we'll catch you same time, same place next week. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.